Defending our borders, our sovereignty, our minerals, our water, our land, our way of life.
We will stand up to the American president from a position of strength. More important than anything, we will bring home the Canadian promise.
Will I give up on fighting for people that need me to fight for them? No. Hell no. I'm never going to give up. I don't care what's going on. I'm always going to be there to fight for people.
The story of 2024 political polling was Justin Trudeau's collapse and Pierre Poilievre's rise, but those numbers are moving fast in the other direction, with the Liberals enjoying a rapid recovery in the polls following Justin Trudeau's departure, Mark Carney taking party reins, and the ascent of Donald Trump. With the Conservatives and Liberals now locked in a tight race, we've got top pollsters here to dig into public opinion data. David Coletto is the founder, chair, and CEO of Abacus Data, and Greg Lyle is the president and founder, of Innovative Research Group. Hi to both of you. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation. David, we'll start with you and your top-line numbers, which, boy, oh boy, if we had this conversation late last year, would look a whole lot different. How much of a swing are we talking about, in your view?
Well, we're talking about a massive swing in a very short period of time. Our most recent numbers still have the Conservatives ahead by 3, but with the Liberals at 36, they're up 16 points in just over 2 months. We're about to be done at a field that I think is going to show, for the first time in our tracking, the Liberals ahead. So that trend seems to be continuing. This isn't the Liberal peak, and they still seem to have some more room to grow, largely at the New Democrats' expense.
Greg, you already have the Liberals 2 points ahead, I believe, of the Conservatives in your most recent set of data. Where are you seeing the biggest gains being made? Like, who is swinging back to or from the NDP toward the Liberals?
I mean, the Liberals are gaining across the board. Regionally, they're doing best in Eastern Canada, where they're ahead now in the Atlantic, ahead in Quebec, and in our numbers, narrowly ahead in Ontario. Attitudinally is really interesting. We do a value cluster segmentation, and when we look at people that have the most left-wing values in Canada, the Liberals have twice as much support as the NDP. So the NDP's really fallen apart there. But on the other side of the equation, we see two types of Conservatives: a populist Conservative that's still very happy with Poilievre, but a deferential Conservative, more like a Brian Mulroney Conservative, where the Liberals are now ahead.
It's interesting. I wanted to pick up on that point because I can remember, how many conversations have all of us had over the past 5 or 6 years where there's like, do they have to pivot to the center? And there was a sort of rejection among Conservatives at this idea that they had to moderate because everyone's in the middle and there's this great class of voters to be one that ultimately can catapult a party to form government. It feels like progressive conservatism is alive and well with the polls in the past little while, David. Is that an incorrect conclusion to reach based on this?
Well, I don't know if it's so much an ideology or a partisanship. I think what people are looking for is stability. And so if progressive conservative values are about, keeping things in the straight and narrow, not changing too much, which is ironic given that people still are looking for a change, but I don't think they're looking for a revolution. They're not looking for more disruption to their lives. They just want to know that whoever's going to lead them is going to guide the country through this incredibly uncertain and difficult period. And so I think what you see is actually far less ideology. It's why Mark Carney can both be winning over past Conservative supporters. He's getting about 1 in 10 of those who voted Conservative last time now say they're going to vote Liberal, at the same time as he's attracting a quarter of those who voted NDP. Like, that is the ultimate, Liberal, if they have success, is being able to pull from both sides. And I think it's because Carney has really positioned himself as that moderate, stable, sensible alternative to the chaos that Donald Trump is throwing around the world.
Greg, when it comes to leadership attributes and the leader positioning itself, you have some new data out about best prime minister, for example. And again, if this had been a few months ago and we were looking at Pierre Poilievre versus Justin Trudeau, the numbers certainly didn't look the way that your data shows you the Carney-Poilievre face-off looks at this moment.
Right. If you look at favorables, Polyev was 20 points ahead of Trudeau. Today, Carney is 20 points ahead of Polyev. If we look at who's best to be prime minister, Carney has an 8-point lead. If we look at who's best to deal with the U.S., Carney has a 12-point lead. Part of the issue here, though, may be as much tone as ideology or policy. So I think one of the most effective bits of communications that the Liberals have out is an ad that shows Trump saying something in a certain way, and then Polyev saying the same basic thing, the same basic way, and they do it 3 or 4 times. And if the ballot question is who's best to stand up to Trump, the answer is probably not the person that sounds like him.
Does it feel, David, like that still remains the ballot question? I would point to the fact that over the past few days, it has felt for once like we are not in the crosshairs as directly as we had been over the last number of weeks in a sustained fashion. Does that make a difference ultimately, or is this in the back of our minds no matter what right now?
I think it's informing almost everything. I mean, we ask a question, what's most likely to decide how you're going to vote? Is it the party that best represents change, is going to be a change in direction and policy, or the party that's best going to deal with the effects that Trump's throwing at us? And a month ago, it was 56% I want change, 44% let's deal with Trump. And those numbers have now flipped in our most recent survey that we just finished like moments ago. And among those who say this is about Trump, the Liberals lead by like 30 points. And for those who say this is about change, the Conservatives lead by 35. I mean, it's rare to see such a perfect correlation between where you frame yourself and how you see this election and how you're going to vote. And so right now, the momentum is still moving into that Trump. This is about Trump. This is about stability. This is about certainty. It's still, there's still lots of people who say, and it's still the #1 issue, that the cost of living is there. And that's why I think Mark Carney has tried to put out some tax cuts and demonstrate that he's still aware of it. But he still has that massive advantage on the Trump question, which I think is why the Liberals find themselves now really in pole position and the favorites to win this election if it were to end, today.
Last word to you, Greg. Most of the time, what goes up has to come down. Do you have a gut feeling based on the surveying you're doing about whether this ascent we've witnessed over the last 8 weeks for the Liberals is, not yet at a peak or past its peak?
Well, they still have room to grow, but there are 2 events that are very likely to determine how this election ends up. The bigger one of the 2 is the April 2nd tariff deadline. 2 different sets of tariffs are going to be dealt with on that day. And if a significant number of tariffs are imposed on Canada, 4 weeks later on election day, there'll be a significant number of Canadians out of work. And that is going to fundamentally change the dynamic. Whether the Liberals benefit or not, we don't know. And then the second thing is the 2 debates. In the leadership, Carney struggled. He stumbled in French, misstated himself, and he didn't do a good job on the Brookfield issue in English. He's going to be up against 3 pit bulls, and how he comes out of that could be deterministic.
Great point. Okay, I'll leave it there. Thanks very much to both of you for the analysis this evening. Greg Lyle and David Coletto.